Hey guys, Legendaray here, and according to this Clash Royale statistic, a majority of you players are still trying to reach that 4,000 to 4,600 trophy range. So today, I'm going to be giving you 5 of the best decks to do so. These decks are decks that are slightly easier to learn and play at a competent level, and very quickly, you will notice your trophies go up as you learn to play these decks more and more. In addition to that, many of these decks are a bit more level independent, meaning that you don't have to have some of these cards at a high level to do well with them. Finally, keep in mind that trophy gates are a thing now, so once you do push up to that 4,000 trophy mark, you will never have to worry about dropping under again. Ready? Well, without further ado, let's get right into the list. Number 1, Pekka Control. The good old Pekka Control. This deck, in my opinion, is one of the safest decks to run in the entire game, with its only big weaknesses being Bait and Lava Loon. As said in the name, this deck is a control type deck, which means that you want to utilize your towers on your side of the arena to defend and gain a positive elixir advantage, thus essentially controlling the match. Then, with your elixir advantage, you can counter push and overwhelm. Therefore, start off every match on the more passive side, waiting for your opponent to make the first move and then acting accordingly. That being said, this deck does have some quick pressure units, so if your opponent does make a decent commitment in the back, go ahead and pressure that other tower with something such as the Bandit. Finally, against a cheaper deck such as Bait or Hog Cycle, you will want to play this Pekka deck a bit more aggressively, making sure that you will always have your proper counters in hand. Number 2, Golem Beatdown. Golem Beatdown, another pretty classic deck that has been around since the beginning of the game. Now this deck is a beatdown deck, which means that the goal is to generally overwhelm your opponent in one big steamrolling push. How can you do this? By creating a positive elixir advantage, of course. So, similar to a control deck, you can focus on making those positive elixir trades on defense. However, another way beatdown players gain an elixir advantage is to take tower damage. If your opponent has, a small push coming towards your tower, it's okay to take some pretty critical damage on your towers, save some elixir, and build up a massive push that your opponents just can't stop. That being said, be careful not to give too much spell value with your push. Do not clump up your units all at once and then give your opponents a massive elixir advantage. Make sure to stagger your troop placements, that way your troops can get the most value possible. Number 3, Classic Bait. Bait is another super old archetype, and well, it says in the name. The goal of this deck is to bait out your opponent's small spells. This deck has a ton of loggable units, Goblin Gang, Princess, Goblin Barrel, you name it. And if your opponent uses their small spell on one of these units, then they won't have a small spell for any of the other tiny units. Now, this deck is also a bit of a cheaper deck, so instead of playing completely passive like the previous 2 decks, it's okay to start playing cards at the beginning of the match. In fact, I recommend it. This way, you can have a sense of which small spells your opponent has from the very beginning. That way you can begin to keep track of them. Also, by keeping up constant pressure onto your opponents, you prevent them from building up that big push so that they can overwhelm you. This is one of the biggies of a cheaper cycle deck. Also, protect your princess. These sneaky cards can get so much value from all the way across the arena if left ignored, so if you manage to get a few princesses up, you can be sure that you are in a very good position. Number 4, Balloon Rascals. Now this is a newer deck that has surfaced somewhat recently and is a super effective deck if you have the cards. This deck is again a bit of a cheaper cycle deck, so you'll begin playing a bit more aggressively in single elixir time, starting off the match with something in the back such as Bats or Ice Golem. Then, if your opponent uses 1, 2, or 3 of their air targeting cards, be sure to just go opposite lane with that balloon. This deck is very versatile with 3 medium tanks in the deck, Miner, Ice Golem, and the Rascal Boy, so comboing that balloon with any of these tanks can form an absolutely deadly push. In addition, the Miner can provide tower damage in a pinch to finish off matches. Inferno and Rascals will be your main heavy defenders, so be sure to use these cards smart and not waste them on something that's just completely pointless. Number 5, Knight Hog. Now this deck is a very interesting deck that combines the Hog archetype as well as the Bait archetype. In addition, there's that added Mega Knight tank in the deck, which just adds defensive and offensive power into this combination. Now with this deck, you can go ahead and start off the match with something small, maybe a Hog or a Goblin Gang right at the bridge. This way, you can begin to figure out what cards and counters your opponent has as soon as possible, which is essential to any bait type deck. Now this deck also has some quick pressure with the Hog and the Bandit, so if your opponent makes a big commitment in the back, don't hesitate to form a push in the opposite lane to stop your opponents from building up a big push. The Mega Knight and E-Wiz are more units that you will use on defense first, so make sure to get good value on them defensively, and then if they are surviving, they can be absolutely lethal when supported with a counter push. So there we go. 5 decks that can very easily push you to 4,000 trophies and above. That being said, a good deck will only take you so far. Be sure to practice the deck and develop a game plan for how you use it in every match. Also, learn some interactions for your cards. This is ladder, so make sure you keep your card levels into account as well. I wish you all the best of luck on ladder, but unfortunately guys, that's all I've got time for in today's episode. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below as well as a subscription to my channel. And as always, this is Legendaray, and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.